Hi, and welcome back to my channel. If you're one of my 28 beautiful subscribers, oh my god, I love you so much. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Catherine Vitug, and I'm here to help you live connected. So that looks like me doing videos on health and healing, spirituality, personal growth, connected parenting, connected relationships, and that's actually what we're getting into today is relationships. Because, listen, I know we're probably all really sick of it by now, but the whole like Will Smith slapping Chris Rock thing at the Oscars that just like blew everyone's minds by just how ridiculous it was. What's interesting about this is that it's really had so many people talking about like what's going on behind the scenes with his relationship with Jada Pinkett Smith and just the whole like open marriage type situation. So I don't know. I feel like it's just gotten a lot of people I see trending like that it's getting people talking about open relationships. So I wanted to like throw my little 2 cents in on there. So yeah, I'm gonna open up. I'm gonna be vulnerable. I'm gonna talk about conversations that I've had in my marriage and just my thoughts on it. And yeah, let's discuss. So really, when it comes to the idea of an open relationship or a closed relationship, we have to kind of get into what a relationship is, and then on a higher octave, what a marriage is. And this is gonna completely revolve around your own personal beliefs. But for me and my husband, we believe that like everything is God, that all people are God, and that we are all one, like one big consciousness, right? And we're all the little pieces of that fabric, but together, you know, all the threads of the fabric make, you know, a rug or whatever it is, the analogy that you want to use. So if you do believe that we are all one God consciousness, it really does change the meaning of relationships, because it's no longer two random people or two entities coming together. It's two almost particles, if you will, or rays of God coming together. So it's kind of like a emergence with God is when you have a relationship with another person. And that also means that all encounters are holy encounters, right? That whether you meet someone for 2 seconds or have a very intimate, you know, like a marriage with somebody, it's all you interacting with other forms, like other pieces of yourself, right? Other faces of God, but they're all faces of God equally, right? So this is kind of a mind bender when it comes to relationships, because we live in a very dualistic realm where we, you know, treat strangers and our friends and family very differently. And just the way we think about it, you know, like what always cracked me up, especially because I was a server for a long time through college, was like, I don't know, I found it interesting that if two people are strangers, you know, for example, I'm a waitress and I don't know this person. I go to clear their plate. Would I ever eat off their plate? Ugh, no, not in a million years, right? That's so gross to us. But then if I like shake their hand and all of a sudden we get in a conversation, they invite me to sit to dinner, and then they share their charcuterie board or something with me, like I would eat off that plate. So like, I don't know, it's just interesting. We have a very different way that we feel and think and treat, you know, different levels of relationships in our lives. So if you look at relationships like this, it's kind of, you know, it's kind of logical to take it to the next step and say, okay, so if two people meeting, you know, are like two particles of God coming together to experience more of itself, then wouldn't you experience more of God the more people that you meet? So it's really interesting. So it might drastically change the way you look at relationships. And some questions might arise, like, are open relationships more evolved? You know, is polyamory more evolved than monogamy? When you think of people like Jesus, you know, the Buddha, saints and bodhisattvas, like, they don't seem like they were super attached to any, like, you know, like they maybe had people in their lives, but they didn't have like a singular focus like monogamy, for example. It seemed like they were almost giving themselves equally to like all of humanity. So yeah, like, do relationships, monogamous marriages and monogamous relationships, do they put a cap on your spiritual attainment? Is it kind of a glass ceiling because of your attachment there? Can you find a balance between loving all people and being in a committed, devoted relationship or marriage? Let's discuss. Oh, okay. So, little story time. So before my husband and I got married and started a family, we were together for, I like 11 years, I believe. Yeah, we got married at like 11 years. And we wanted to get married like very soon in our relationship, but we just, for a multitude of reasons, thought we had to be in like a different place to get married and whatever. And so it kept being pushed on the back burner. But around that time, we were just having a lot of growth, a lot of changes going on in our lives. And at one point we did have a discussion about like just the theory of open relationships, and is it a more higher evolvement of love and just, you know, a way to live your life to find happiness, right? Because at the end of the day, your existence should be to, at least at the time we thought, to grow and to, you know, be a better person for yourself and for others. So we were like, let's have an actual discussion and kind of open ourselves up and put the judgment down and have allow ourselves the freedom to even have this conversation. Because I feel like for a lot of people in a lot of relationships, even just bringing this up would be a huge, point of contention or a huge fight. Like, what? You even brought up an open relationship? Like, you don't love me, blah, blah, blah. Right? So we were just like, you know what? Let's look at this and let's let each other off the hook for even daring, if you will, to look at it. So we did have a conversation, and quite a few conversations about it. And I'm going to tell you what led to us considering an open relationship, and what we kind of ended up concluding, our discussion with, where we decided to land, and then where we are now. So first thing is, what got us to the point where we actually even considered an open relationship? So on my side, I don't know, ever since I was young, like when I first figured out what divorce was, I feel like it was in like second or third grade, maybe second grade. It just stuck in my mind. Like, it was just like, wow, that is something, that is really something to think that you can be married, you can have kids together and still not end up together. And I think deep down, I always knew my own parents are divorced. I don't think that's like a negative thing to say. I mean, over 50% of people end up in divorce these days. So it's nothing new. My family's not any less because, my parents are divorced, but it is a major statistic. And I think I'm going to do a whole separate video on like why I feel like my generation is struggling a bit with relationships and marriage and love. And yeah, definitely our parents being the generation that really, that divorce statistic really climbed after, the 70s. So it's interesting. So I think I just always really questioned just the nature of love, the nature of relationships and marriage from a young age, because maybe I could tell my parents weren't the perfect match. And then it just gets you questioning, like, do you believe in true love? Like, are there soulmates? Like, these are things I thought about from a very young age. So, and I think it was having parents that were divorced, always questioning love, and then just, always questioning, like, is there the one, right? And I could do another video on how I believe I came to the conclusion that my husband was the one. And it's a really good one because I actually had this like prophetic dream, and it just like totally changed how I viewed things in my relationship. But anyways, beside the point, I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of just inner debates about love. And so that's what kind of led me to this. And there was also a movie. There was a movie with Jennifer Aniston. I'll look up the name and I'll put it in the description box below. But it's really, really funny. It was one of her more modern ones, or more recent ones. And it was like her and her husband, they end up breaking down. And so they spend the night at this like hippie commune and they have like a really great time. And they're just like, why can't we live like this, right? And they're in a really transitory time in their life. So like, maybe he lost his job or they're moving or whatever. So they like decided to stay there for a little bit and see if it could work out. But they were so hippie that they had this like free love kind of, no relationship is exclusive kind of rule. And so to stay there, they were going to have to like open their relationship. So it was pretty funny and they weren't ready for it. But yeah, I think we had watched this and maybe that also kind of sparked the debate, but I don't know, sometimes in life, like things just come up and you eventually talk about them. And my husband and I have always talked about any of our feelings, any of our insights. So it was just natural for us to kind of like have this conversation, I guess. And for him on his side, he's not like me at all. I'm very Pisces. I'm very like, as the healer archetype, I can literally fall into anyone I'm talking to. Like, I feel like when I meet people, I don't want small talk. I just want to like talk about everything and really open myself up to others and kind of get the same in return. So I can kind of feel a connection with everyone in the room very easily. My husband he's a little bit more guarded in that way. But for him, things really changed, and our conversation kind of changed when he had a dream that had the theme of universal love in it. And dreams are really interesting, and I'm going to talk a lot about that on this channel, but they really are, information gets processed very differently in the dream realm. Like here, things take longer to like embody certain emotions and things. Like we can think something and then our feelings have to like gradually progress about it. And then maybe it sinks into like our physical reality. But in the dream world, like you move through emotion, you integrate emotion and information really quickly. So he had this dream. So dreams can be kind of like emotional shortcuts. And that's why when you dream of something, it feels like it really happened, because like you're able to emotionally like integrate on such a different level in the dream world. That's why things feel really real, or they just change you emotionally. So he had this dream, and I won't get into all the details, but basically it was like, it was interesting. It was like we were one of the last people on Earth, and like all these orbs of light were coming and like taking people up into the sky. Almost sounds like a rapture or something. But yeah, so we got to this like different place, and he was very focused on like, where's Catherine? I need to keep her safe. We need to stick together. He was very focused on us compared to like the experience. And we got separated. He couldn't, fight it. And then these two beings were like, calm down, like, you're going to be okay. You're going to understand very soon. And he was like really freaking out. And they were like, you're here for reconditioning, and you'll see her again. Like, it's okay. And he was like, reconditioning, what is that? And he said they like walked him into this new place. And as he was like walking to go get reconditioned, it just kind of happened. And all of a sudden, like, he was like relieved of his physical body in a way. And it was almost like he was made of light. And you could kind of, he said you could kind of determine how you wanted people to see you and how you wanted to appear to others. I don't know. It's a really, really psychedelic dream. But then he said they brought him to this like almost like a ballroom, like a big ballroom where everybody that was previously on Earth together. And they were all like, yeah, like you could see them, but you could also kind of tell that they were made of light, and people were like drinking colors, and it was just like a really harmonious, like loving energy throughout the whole room. Everyone was kind of on the same page. And then he said he found me, and I was like just took to it like a fish, in water, just like, woo, this is my vibe. Like, we're all vibing with each other. We all like kind of love each other like equally. It was a very loving experience. And he said he kind of felt like the fish out of water. And he was like, oh, okay. So we really are opening ourselves up like to a whole nother realm, a whole nother reality of like love and existence. So it sounds very fun or frivolous or whatever, but that dream changed the way he felt, and he felt like he needed to open his heart more. And he kind of struggled with this, like, what does that look like? Whatever. So like, does this mean I have to have an open relationship? Does this just mean I have to like, open up a bit more, to acquaintances or other people, whatever. So yeah, so this is kind of what brought us to the conversation of open relationships. So we both had our different reasons for coming to this conversation, different things that kind of sparked it, but really we both just wanted to have this conversation because we were of the same belief. We believe everyone is sacred. We believe all relationships are sacred and equal, and that we're all, God, that we're all one. So, all encounters are holy encounters, like I said before. But this is why we eventually decided against it. So I'm going to give you kind of all the reasons why we just decided this wasn't for us. And the first one is kids. And this was just very obvious to us both. We both really felt it, that we really wanted to start a family, and we just don't think that a polyamorous lifestyle is appropriate for kids. I think it could be confusing and, just not stable and grounded. Like we both feel kids deserve a foundation with both their parents present and accounted for and unified. The second reason we decided against having an open relationship is just because by opening up your relationship, you're inherently making that relationship less meaningful. Because we are in a very dualistic environment. So, you know, everything is black and white and shades of gray in the middle, right? So if you open your relationship, what's to make that relationship special anymore? What's to set it apart from being roommates or being friends or acquaintances or just companions? Like, we didn't want to let our spiritual growth make our relationship less meaningful, because that could really happen. You could even fall in love with someone else, right? Like, you're just opening yourself up to like a Pandora's box that you really don't know what that holds, you know? And also, we quickly realized that there's a major difference between like the spiritual body and the emotional, mental, and physical body. And, you know, these subtle bodies, they should be in alignment, but they're not always in alignment. You know, we're not in heaven. We're not in this other reality where everyone's on the same page and, you know, everyone's of, you know, equally evolved consciousness, and there's no jealousy and there's no ego, right? Like, we're very much on earth. We're very much humans with flesh and blood and real emotions. And, you know, we're not always in alignment with our highest self. So, like, what happens if we're, you know, feeling really evolved and we're open, and then the next day we hit a low turn and we get jealous or hurt or insecure? Like, and I just think that if you try and grow too fast, you're not honoring your growth. You're not honoring where you are now. So in trying to live like you're in heaven too soon, trying to expand before you're ready, you're kind of not absorbing the lessons of where you are now. It's just not something that we wanted to risk. And I just think here on earth, like, we are having a lesson in individuality. And even though all encounters are holy, we just don't have, it's like we don't have the bandwidth to really process that. And yeah, besides that, there are very real consequences to an open relationship. There's unwanted, you know, pregnancies, STDs, like, just, you know, you're opening your heart, but you're also opening other people's heart. And like, that's a whole Pandora's box that I don't even know if, like, we definitely just weren't ready to open it. Like, we were just like, this is way too complicated, and we love each other too much. We just don't want to open that box. Yeah, so there's like physical consequences, there's, you know, emotional consequences like hurt, jealousy, anger, you know, pain, insecurity. There's the mental consequences of like having to compartmentalize different relationships and like boundaries, and just how are you going to juggle like, everyone's got 24 hours in the day, right? Like, you need time for yourself, time for your relationship, time for now others. Like, it's just a lot of like juggling. And yeah, we also just quickly realized that a path like this, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. This is a path of no return, and it could really change your relationship. You could damage the relationship and traumatize it in a way that would be very hard to undo, you know? So we just didn't want to hurt each other. We didn't feel like we wanted to open up. And that's actually the last reason. We just didn't want to. And I say this because if you're anything like me, you can, in your path of self-evolvement, right? In your path of self-improvement, you quickly realize that growth is the opposite of comfort. That comfort keeps you from growing. And so it can become quite addictive to get out of your comfort zone, because you realize that's where growth is, right? So that's why you see people jumping into ice buckets, you know, and doing the Wim Hof method. It's because jumping in that cold water, getting out of your comfort zone, it helps you become stronger, more resilient. It's a high, you know, like not sinking into the comfort of life and making it dull your senses and just slow you down. So I think I very much was in a place of, and him and I both were like, if we're not growing, what are we doing? You know? So we would constantly be pushing ourselves. But everything, like I said, there is duality in life. So yes, of course, comfort can be bad, and it can slow you down. But also, as in anything, it can also have its time and place, where it's good, where it's needed, where it's healing. So if you do feel like this resonates with you and you're someone that is addicted to the growth, addicted to that, like, challenge, that you want to meet, allow yourself time to truly still be listening to your instincts, listening to your heart. In the case of this, I didn't want to open, like, we really didn't want to be with anybody else. And especially as the woman is the receptive energy. And so I did not want to receive anyone else's, I don't know. When we actually thought about the logistics, we were like, oh no, we really don't even want to be with anybody else. But we questioned this because we're so like always trying to press ahead. So we had to really listen and go, you know what, in our heart it's not telling us to push, before we're ready and try and evolve into this higher form of love that we're not ready for. We weren't ready for it. Even though a lot of philosophies teach against attachment, we're learning that we're happiest in nurturing ours. So that kind of brings me to where we are today. So the main benefit of just even giving ourselves the freedom to have this conversation was that you give each other the freedom to put all options on the table. And in doing so, you really know, through questioning and through just the process of like, talking and discussing ideas like this, you really come to understand who you are individually and as a couple, what you want, what you believe in, what you value. And with that comes great security, like you're very secure in who you are as a couple because you've really talked it all out. And like I said, it was just the freedom of just having the conversation that felt like a win. It felt like, we there's nothing that we ever need to hide from each other. Like we can go to these, places and still come back together and stronger for it. And really at the end of the day, we found that we wanted a more traditional marriage. We wanted a more traditional experience. We wanted to get married. We wanted to have kids. And so now that we are here, we are married, we are parents, we're the happiest we've ever been. And especially like the more that we embrace surprisingly traditional gender roles. I always thought of myself as like very progressive and very feminist, but like the more that we embrace just like traditional, just what it is to be a man and a husband and what it is to be a woman and a wife, like the happier we are, the more balanced our relationship is and the stronger the foundation is for our family, like for our child to grow upon. So it just, we feel like we're finally like in a really good harmony and a really good balance. And we've found a really good place. I think we have a respect for the sanctity of marriage. We really see it now for like what it truly is, like that it truly is a sacred thing if you treat it that way, that a marriage thrives when you treat it like it's a sacred relationship. And those vows truly are like incredibly meaningful, the more that you put meaning into it. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on open relationships. I'm really happy we did not go down a path of no return, and it was a great lesson. It was a great lesson in just honoring where you're at, and just growth isn't everything. And comfort and attachments aren't the enemy always, like just be where you're at, and we're really happy that we are married. I don't know, it's like such a fun thing. We love, being a wife and a mom has just brought like a whole nother level of meaningfulness and purposefulness. And so thank you for joining me. If you liked it, give it a like. Bye, goodbyes. Thank you for joining me today on It's Not a Red Table Talk, it's a peachy bed talk, okay? And I will see you next time. Goodbye.